Dear sisters and brothers from all around the world, shalom to all of you from the President's residence in Jerusalem. Today marks a full year since the earth shook, since the worst of human brutality and hatred ripped apart our sense of safety and changed our world forever. A year since our women, our children, our old people were hunted down in their beds, burned to death, beheaded, raped, and shot. A year since the gathering of our beautiful young people turned into a scene of carnage, torture, and death. A year since hundreds of our people were brutally dragged into captivity, dead and alive. And we must be honest, here, now, when the passage of time should be able to offer comfort and some sense of closure, the earth shakes still. Our wounds still cannot fully heal because they are ongoing, because hostages are still being tortured, executed, and dying in captivity, because they and their families are still living in the loss and the terror of October 7th, right at these very moments, because tens of thousands of families still cannot return home. In many senses, we're all still living the aftermath of October 7th. It is everywhere in our country. It is also in the anti-Semitism that came charging forward throughout the world in the wake of the war with Hamas. It is in the ongoing threat to the Jewish state by Iran and its terror proxies, who are blinded by hatred and bent on the destruction of our one and only Jewish nation state. It is in the tangible fear, uncertainty, and anxiety about the future. All of these are here with us still. But friends, the divider we can create in time so as to remember still carries so much meaning. This time, 1 year later, is an invitation to come close to the pain and the grief, to look at it with open eyes and open hearts, remembering what we have lost, which reminds us also who we are. We are a people with the power to keep standing up again and again against hatred, to get back on our feet from the ashes of tragedy, to fight and to survive, to heal and to rebuild. And in truth, this year of so much heartbreak and devastation, which has plagued Jew, Muslim, Christian, Druze in my nation, and Jews all over the world and other friends, this year has compelled us to return to the core truths of our peoplehood. It has compelled us to reconnect with one another and to recommit ourselves to the path of self-reflection, collective responsibility, and social justice that are the spiritual legacy of our people. And we really have been there for one another this year in beautiful expressions of love and solidarity. We have not abandoned our deep longing and aspiration for peace with our neighbors. And we hold on to this intention still, even as we insist that we as Jews deserve to feel safe and to be safe, regardless of where on earth we may live. So, my friends, we will emerge from this difficult time and we will overcome the hatred and we will rebuild. With the vital spirit that has defined us, we will come together to recover again and again, and we will rebuild. Inspired by the courage of bravery and the beauty of everyone we lost, we will not stop believing that a better world is possible. I would like to end my words with a prayer and hope in this spirit, that we find strength and receive the blessing of peace. Adonai oz la'amo yiten, Adonai yevarech et amo b'shalom.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage the Consul General of Israel, Mr. Paul Hirschon.
And who by fire? Who by water? Who in the sunshine? Who in the nighttime? Who by high ordeal? Who by common trial? Your very own Leonard Cohen. Who will live and who will perish? And who shall I say is calling? It's been a long year, 101 family members remain hostage in Gaza. It was evil that came calling on October the 7th. I was in Israel on October the 7th. My son was called up at 5 in the morning on October the 8th, barely hours before Hezbollah opened a second front against us. I dropped my son at the army and made my way back to Montreal a few days later. Haven't seen him since. He did a total of 5 months reserve duty. Jewish day schools, synagogues, community centers have been shot at and petrol bombed in Montreal. Jewish businesses are targeted, boycotted, even shot at. And who has responded, Leonard Cohen might have asked. The mayor of Montreal has still not yet reached out to the parents of Alexandre Luc, a Montreal boy murdered while protecting others. Just a word of compassion. It would help us digest social media posts accusing us of things she knows are false. What has Canada's government's response been? Has it supported Israel or retreated to complacent neutrality, which in the words of Elie Wiesel, helps the killers rather than the victims? Is Canada indirectly rewarding acts of terror through abstention on international votes, placing a de facto embargo on an ally at war, or by considering recognition of a Palestinian state? I do owe thanks to Quebec's government. Et nous avons ici des amis à moi, le même de gouvernement de Québec, le ministre Benoît Charest, Pascal Derry. Merci que vous êtes venus. You've been superb. It's much appreciated. I owe thanks to Quebec's government. They opened a bureau in Israel subsequent to and despite October the 7th. Quebec publicly rejected Canada's support for a premature ceasefire at the United Nations. And they did more. Their support has been superb and appreciated. Merci beaucoup. And we all shed so many tears. But tears are not a sign of weakness. The opposite. Our tears were authentic and the foundation stones of our comeback. Our children stepped up. We called up 300,000 of them. 450,000 turned up. I have a degree in accounting. I was taught numbers mean little. Ratios are everything. We now know our children are heroes. They have dismantled Hamas as a military organization while keeping the civilian death toll. Yes. While keeping the civilian death toll to the lowest in modern military history. Not 1.4 to every combatant killed. Far lower than our allies achieved, including Canada on occasion, in Iraq, in Kosovo, in Afghanistan, or anywhere else. An achievement sometimes secured at the cost of the lives of our children. Civilian casualties have plummeted, thankfully, as we learned how to prosecute this urban underground war. Yes, there have been many civilian casualties, and every civilian casualty is too many. And the responsibility for every single one of them in Gaza lies at the doorstep of Hamas. And now at the hands of Hezbollah in Lebanon. Here in Montreal, the tide too has turned, and I would be remiss not to mention the superb work done by your incomparable federation, CJA. We're finished being victims in Israel and in Montreal too. We have work to do. We have work to do, and we'll do it. It's been a long year, and 101 family members remain hostage in Gaza, including 2 of my daughter Noah's work colleagues, Gully and Ziv Berman, twins, 26 when kidnapped, now 27. As we remember, we also look ahead. We don't just survive, we thrive. We dream of a future where peace is a reality, not just a distant hope. A future where terror is a memory and Israel stands as a beacon of resilience, innovation, and hope for all. The road ahead is long, but if history has taught us anything, it's that Israel does not back down. We will defend our people and our land while never losing sight of our dream. A peaceful, prosperous future for Israel and the entire region. 1 year later, we remember, we honor, and we look forward with hope in our hearts and an unshakable belief that the best is yet to come. I fly to Israel tomorrow, quite excited at the prospect. Thank you for embracing me into your community. I'm back at month's end. We have work to do. Gmal Khatima Tova.
They came without warning, a relentless wave of terror that shattered everything in its path. In an instant, life changed forever. Homes once filled with laughter became battlefields. Streets that bustled with life were turned into scenes of horror. Innocent civilians, families, children became targets of a brutal attack that shook the very soul of Israel. Within hours, the unimaginable had unfolded. Approximately 1,200 lives stolen in cold blood, each one a story, a dream, a future, taken too soon. And as the dust settled, the realization of an even deeper horror hit. 251 innocent souls, kidnapped, torn from their homes, their families, and dragged into Gaza. Mothers, fathers, children. The pain, the fear, and the uncertainty they face every day is a burden we all carry. The scars of that day run deep, etched into the hearts of every Israeli, etched into the history of this nation. We wake up each day with the weight of loss, the faces of the fallen in our minds, and the ache of those still missing never far from our thoughts. It's a grief that never fades, a trauma that binds us all. But out of the ashes of that horrific day, something remarkable happened. In the face of pure evil, the spirit of Israel emerged stronger than ever before. Communities, once separated by distance, united as one. Volunteers poured in from every corner of the country, offering shelter, food, clothing, and comfort. People who had never met embraced each other like family. From the deepest sorrow, a wave of compassion, resilience, and unity swept across the land. Throughout our history, we have faced the impossible, and every time, we've risen above it with an unbreakable will to survive, rebuild, and move forward. One year later, we still feel the loss deeply. Every name, every face is remembered. We honor the heroes who sacrificed everything and stand united, stronger and more determined than ever. We continue to pray for the safe return of our hostages, holding on to hope each day. But as we remember, we also look ahead. We don't just survive, we thrive. We dream of a future where peace is a reality, not just a distant hope. A future where terror is a memory, and Israel stands as a beacon of resilience, innovation, and hope for all. The road ahead is long, but if history has taught us anything, it's that Israel does not back down. We will defend our people and our land, while never losing sight of our dream. A peaceful, prosperous future for Israel and the entire region. 1 year later, we remember, we honor, and we look forward, with hope in our hearts and an unshakable belief that the best is yet to come.
Mesdames et messieurs, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Board Chair, Mr. Steve Sabag.
Bonsoir tout le monde. Avant de commencer, j'aimerais remercier chaque employé de la Fédération CJA qui a travaillé ce soir. This production is absolutely incredible. Thank you for building and sustaining community. J'aimerais souligner la présence de certains dignitaires. Merci de réserver vos applaudissements pour la fin. Consul General of Israel, Paul Hirschhorn. Le ministre de l'Environnement, Benoît Charette, la ministre de l'Enseignement supérieur, Pascal Derry, Mayor of Hampstead, Jeremy Levy, MP for Mount Royal, Anthony Housefather, M&A for Darcy McGee, Elizabeth Prast, député d'Outremont, Rachel Bendayan, Conservative Senator, Leo Housakos, M&A for Notre-Dame-de-Grâce, Desiree McGraw, M&A for Westmount Saint-Louis, Jennifer Macaron, député de Charlesbourg, Haute-Saint-Charles, Pierre Paulus, député de Beauce, Richard Lehoux, député de Marguerite-Bourgeois, Frédéric Boschman, Mayor of Côte-Saint-Luc, Mitchell Brownstein, Chair of the English Montreal School Board, Joe Ortona, the Hellenic Congress, the Italian-Canadian Community Foundation, the Federation of Filipino Associations of Quebec et plusieurs conseillers municipaux de différentes villes. Merci beaucoup. Thank you for your steadfast commitment and support to the Jewish community. It is very much appreciated and we do not take it for granted. Merci. Il y a un an, le cours de l'histoire changea à jamais. Hamas unleashed a brutal and vicious attack on Israel. Over 1,200 innocents died that day. 250 of our family were taken hostage in a living hell. Thousands were displaced, and millions of us were left with a deep wound that is slow to heal. Aujourd'hui, nous saluons la mémoire de ceux et celles qui ont perdu leur vie pour le seul crime d'être juifs. Nous rendons hommage aux soldats héroïques qui défendent non seulement Israël et le peuple juif, mais aussi le monde libre. Nous sommes solidaires des familles déchirées par la barbarie de cette attaque et l'horreur de la guerre. Nous prions pour le retour de ceux encore captifs. Nous réaffirmons le lien indéfectible qui unit la communauté juive montréalaise à l'État d'Israël. This bond between Israel and the diaspora has never been more important. We are witnessing the very essence of Zionism unfold before our eyes. The Jewish people can only be truly safe through self-determination. Israel is Jewish safety. Our future depends on its security, and Israel's security depends on all of us. The two are inseparably intertwined. La campagne d'urgence pour Israël de la Fédération CJA est un exemple éclatant de ce partenariat. Lancée le 8 octobre, cette campagne a permis de recueillir près d'1 milliard de dollars en Amérique du Nord, dont plus de 27 millions de dollars grâce à vous, Montréal. Thank you to Heather Adelson and the campaign cabinet team to continue to secure the funds we need for this community and for Israel. This close relationship means that the atrocities in Israel strike very close to home, piercing our hearts and souls. Among the murdered were 8 Canadians who we remember tonight with love and respect. Judy Weinstein Hagai, 74, grew up in Toronto, a talented writer, artist, educator, caregiver, volunteer, and peace activist, killed at her home in Kibbutz Nir Oz alongside her husband Gadi. Vivian Silver, 74, of Winnipeg, a renowned peace and women's rights activist who helped children in Gaza access medical care in Israel. She dedicated her life to peace building and social justice. Her remains were found near her home in Kibbutz Be'eri. Tiferet Lapidot, 23, an Israeli citizen with family ties to Canada who taught school children in Africa and dreamed of traveling the world. She was cowardly murdered at the Nova Music Festival. Shir Chana Georgi, 22, an Israeli Canadian brimming with happiness and optimism, who loved sunsets, singing, and dancing, also murdered at the Nova Festival near Kibbutz Reim. Adi Vital Kaplun, 33, a dual citizen with extended family near Ottawa, a talented dancer, saxophonist, and basketball player with a master's degree in engineering. She ensured her father, husband, and the 2 young children were safe before being killed by Hamas terrorists at Kibbutz Holit. Ben Menashe Mizrahi, 22, from Vancouver, who immigrated to Israel alone at 18 to serve in the IDF as a lone soldier. He had just completed his military duty and was about to start university when he was killed at the music festival. Neta Epstein, 22, of Montreal, who worked with special needs youth and had recently returned home after his military service. His bravery saved the life of his fiancée Irene when he jumped on a grenade thrown by terrorists in the safe room of their home in Kibbutz Kfar Aza. Finalement, Alexandre Luc, 33 ans, de Côte-Saint-Luc. Une présence plus grande que nature et doté d'un charisme et d'une générosité hors pair. He died a hero on October 7th, standing at the entrance of a bomb shelter at Kibbutz Be'eri after fleeing the festival with friends. In an act of courage that is already becoming legendary, he used his body as a shield to protect those friends and strangers alike. Baruch Dayan Haemet, as the father of Hirsch Goldberg Poland said at his son's funeral, may their memory be a revolution. "363 days ago, we mourned together at a community vigil. I stood before you and implored our quiet friends to speak up. I made the case that the racist and murderous ideology we're witnessing and combating was not solely an Israeli or Jewish responsibility, but that, as usual, we would fight it alone if we had to. I also warned those who would be quick to condemn Israel's moral duty to respond to the attack, and quick they were, to ask themselves what they would do in the same situation. Yes, I may have dropped a couple of F-bombs to get the point across, but you get my point. Finally, I boasted that we were strong, proud, and united. I'll only give my crystal ball a B because my words did not do justice to the strength, pride, or unity of Israel, the Jewish people, and of this incredible community. Oui, la dernière année a été éprouvante, peut-être la plus difficile pour Am Israël depuis des décennies. Mais vous savez pour qui elle a été encore plus dure? Pour les mollahs de Téhéran, pour les apologistes du terrorisme, pour ceux qui croyaient à tort qu'Israël avait perdu la volonté de se battre, pour ceux qui étaient persuadés que les Juifs baisseraient les bras. On me demande souvent pourquoi on ne nous voit pas comme des victimes, pourquoi on n'attire pas plus de sympathie, ou comment Israël peut être considéré l'agresseur quand il est attaqué sur 7 fronts différents. Oui, un peu plus de compassion et de logique du reste du monde serait idéal, mais le respect, c'est encore mieux. I don't know about you, but I much prefer don't mess with Israel or the Jews than we terrorize them. I never thought I would say this, but Israel is leading the free world. She is sacrificing her best and brightest to uphold universal values while taking immense heat for doing what every Western government wishes it had the courage to do so. You see, Yair, I can be polite. But now the pendulum is starting to swing the other way. Petit à petit, des voix influentes de la société, des gouvernements et du monde des affaires vantent l'importance d'une victoire décisive d'une démocratie libérale contre les forces de l'obscurantisme. The only people truly upset with seeing Hamas, Hezbollah, Houthis, and other terror proxies defeated are humanities and liberal arts students and professors and their Islamo-fascist puppet masters. Les Juifs ont peut-être été exclus de la définition traditionnelle de l'intersectionnalité. Mais quand nos braves étudiants ne se laissent pas intimider sur nos campus, ce sont aussi les étudiants de Téhéran qui se sentent plus courageux. Quand une jeune femme yazidi s'échappe de Gaza, ce sont des villages entiers de Kurdes qui dansent. Quand Israël élimine certains dirigeants terroristes, ce sont des milliers d'Arabes modérés qui sont soulagés. This, my friends, is the true definition of intersectionality. Finally, to the families of victims of terror and of following heroic soldiers, for whom life will never be the same again. Your precious ones paid the heaviest of price to restore some moral clarity to this twisted world. Their ultimate sacrifice unified our people at a time when we were not. They died so fewer may fall tomorrow. We owe them a debt that we can never fully repay, but their blessed memory will inspire us to continue working towards a safer and juster future. Thank you. Please join us in a moment of silence for these brave souls and for all those we have lost since October 7th. Merci. Merci. May God bring back our hostages. May He bring hope to peace-loving people everywhere. Que Dieu apporte réconfort aux familles éprouvées, qu'il protège nos soldats et qu'il continue de bénir Am Israël et cette magnifique communauté. Gemar Chatima Tova. Please rise for the Yizkor recited by the Shinshinim from Israel.
Yizkor, in Hebrew, means remember. Yizkor is a prayer that brings together both religious and non-religious elements. And it's an important part of how Israel remembers its victims and fallen soldiers. This special Yizkor was written after October 7th.
יזכור ישראל, ויתברך בזרעו, ויאבל על זיו העלומים, וחמדת הגבורה, וקדושת הרצון, ומסירות הנפש, אשר נספו במערכה הכבדה. יהיו חללי השבת השחורה, חתומים בלב ישראל, לדור דור.
נאמץ לליבנו את החיים, שורדי התופת וניצולי מעשי הזוועה, את החטופות והחטופים הכלואים במרתפי עזה, ואת הנעדרים שגורלם עוד לא נודע.
את הקשישה והחייל, את הילד והנערה, את בני המשפחה שנשבו יחדיו, את האם ללא עולליה ואת התינוק ללא הוריו. הנה נשואות עיניהם אלינו, ועל דומי לנו עדי ישובו לגבולם.
נאמץ אל ליבנו את הילדות והילדים שגדלו בצל הר געש ונקלעו לתופת המתפרצת, את הפצועות והפצועים בגוף ובנפש, את החרדים לשלום יקיריהם החטופים והנעדרים, את היתומות והיתומים, האלמנות והאלמנים, וכל יודעי השכול.
את פליטי החרב, קהילות ישראל על אלפיהן, שאולצו לגלות מבתיהם, ואין איש יודע אם מתי יוכלו לשוב. אל ישקוט ואל ינחם, ואל יפוג האבל, עד ישוב ישראל וגאל אדמתו, וישב עליה לבטח, ובשלום לדור דור.
Thank you very much. Since October 7th, a year ago, 1,685 souls have been murdered at the hands of terrorist organizations or fell in the defense of the State of Israel. To honor them tonight, we will be laying 5 wreaths. Je voudrais commencer par inviter la famille Luke à déposer une couronne à la mémoire d'Alexandre et des étrangers brutalement assassinés. I would like to call President and CEO of Federation CJA, Yair Slack, for the second one. En mémoire des premiers intervenants qui ont fait le sacrifice ultime en se jetant dans la ligne de mire pour sauver d'autres vies, nous invitons le Dr Liav Lugassi, représentant de l'Association des médecins juifs du Québec, à déposer notre 3e couronne. We now invite Gabrielle Perec sister of the late David Perek, Zichrono Livracha, to lay the fourth wreath in memory of the 728 brave men and women who have fallen in line of duty on or since October 7th in the defense of the State of Israel. I will lay the final wreath in memory of the brave men and women of law enforcement that fought bravely to save the lives of Israeli citizens in southern Israel and fell in the line of duty.
Please welcome to the stage Raquel Look.
There's always more tears, it seems. Ladies and gentlemen, it is surreal for me to imagine that one whole year has gone by since the tragic events of the brutal terrorist attack that forever changed our lives, plunging Israel, the Jewish world, into a multi-front war that we did not ask for, totally unnecessary, but for the fanatics of the Hamas death cult. This past year, as horrific as it has been for our family, It has given us a chance to see the best and the worst of humanity. We all know the worst. Some of the best was actually this morning when I was invited to speak at Bialik's memorial for October 7th. And looking out those beautiful young faces, the light shined so bright from them. And for so many teenagers to be so quiet, they fully understood what this day meant. And I thank them for being the ones that will have to sadly bear witness and tell their children and their grandchildren all about October 7th, what happened to us from the very next day, how there was a kid from Côte St. Luc that showed amazing heroism, and it got really bad for a while. But as usual, we are resilient, we fought back, we came together, and we came out stronger than ever. And I have great faith in these kids, and thanks to JPPS Bialik for really honoring my son, honoring all the victims, and really keeping all of them alive. Thank you. I also got to meet lots of advocates for Israel this year that I loved and admired since way before October 7th. From Lizzie Zavetsky to Noah Tishby to Mossab Hassan Youssef, Loai Al-Harif, but none touched our souls more than meeting Commander Yossi Landau just a few days ago, one of the many tzaddikim from Zaka. He was the first responder at Alex's bomb shelter and was able to answer all the questions that had been haunting us. Although his words brought us to our knees, his testimony brought some kind of comfort. The details offered comfort. They were hard to hear, but he refused to call him Alex. With tears in his eyes, this tzaddik said he was humbled to be in the presence of the parents of this Magen Avraham, the shield of Abraham. 1 year ago today, I lost my beautiful Magen Avraham, Gibur Israel, my firstborn Alexandre. In an act of unspeakable violence, as a mother, I stand before you not just in grief, but also with resilience, determined to honor his memory and the memory of all those we lost in a way that reflects his courage, his compassion, and his unwavering spirit. Alexandre's death left a void that can never be filled, but it has also inspired a profound commitment to eradicating hate and anti-Semitism. To be inspired by all those advocates, I so admired, to do my part, to be all in, to be the voice for Alex, for the hostages, for all the innocent victims, and for Israel. It seemed like I was in a media blitz for the past 10 days up until today. And the sad truth is, we only have a couple of days where the focus is back where it should be, and then Alex, the victims, and the hostages will not be front page. So I felt that I could not say no, And when I was tired and exhausted, I know that Alex infused my soul with the strength to keep going. And I will work tirelessly to build a future based on peace and cooperation for all people. We will never forget what Alex stood for and how he gave his life to protect others. Ils ont essayé de nous détruire, mais nous n'abandonnerons jamais notre quête de la paix et de sécurité pour le peuple d'Israël, pour celles et ceux qui sont encore en captivité à Gaza et pour tous les membres de la communauté juive du monde. C'est ce que Alex aurait fait. A few weeks ago, the city of Côte-Saint-Luc dedicated a new park, Alexandre-Luc Place. A place created to honor my son's memory, situated between Chabad of Côte-Saint-Luc and Bialik High School. This park is more than a physical space. It is a living testament to Alexandre's life and values. Le parc est situé tout près de l'endroit où Alex a grandi, où il a été à l'école et où notre famille pratique sa foi. Désormais, ce parc porte le nom d'Alex. Il symbolise notre volonté indestructible. Il rappelle que malgré tous les défis que nous avons affrontés et malgré les horreurs sans nom que nous avons endurées et que nous endurons encore, nous, la nation juive, nous ne nous laisserons jamais détruire. Ce sera un lieu pour se souvenir de tous les anges du Festival Nova, de tous les kibbutzniks et de tous ceux qui ont perdu la vie en ce jour tragique. Un lieu pour se rassembler et commémorer. Nous avons le devoir de faire perdurer son héritage et nous devons veiller à ce que ces sacrifices, leurs noms et leurs souvenirs ne soient jamais oubliés, pour que l'essence d'Alex continue de nous inspirer. In this park, future generations will learn about Alex's heroic acts of selflessness, about his courage and conviction. They will come to understand the values he lived by, values deeply rooted in our Jewish faith and community. It will be a place for reflection, a sanctuary where we can honor Alex's memory and the memory of all those who lost their lives on that horrific, fateful day. It will be possible to contribute to adding memorial plaques and dedications to honor all our loved ones. From Nova, our fallen soldiers, we just wanted to really be a place to gather and never forget October 7th and all our heroes. As we gather here today on this horribly sad anniversary, I'm reminded of last year sitting Shiva and trying to absorb all that had happened. And I thought to myself, they even ruined Simchas Torah. It was always my favorite holiday as a child, watching the beautiful Torahs dancing, bringing my children, watching their excitement, grabbing the candies. And even as a preschool teacher, teaching the little ones to dance with in circles with pride. I couldn't imagine how we could ever associate Simchas Torah to anything but this tragic Black Saturday. And then my nephew, who was here from Paris, said, non, pas du tout. L'année prochaine, on va danser avec la Torah d'Alex. And that's exactly what we plan to do. In our first meeting with Rabbi Ariel Stern from Chabad of Westmount to discuss the Hachnasat Torah, it became very clear to us that the whole community grieved with us, and the whole community needs to have a part in this full circle moment. So, details to follow. So basically, it will be inaugurated the day of Simchas Torah and completed hopefully next week. And a second one will be celebrated on Hanukkah in Los Cabos. And I have to say, when his friends, his wonderful Israeli friends are asked, but why two? They answer, your son was not a regular person. It is more important than ever to rededicate ourselves, standing firm, all in, against hatred, anti-Semitism, and violence. And may we all work tirelessly to build a world where future generations can live free from conflict. Allah and I and Kayla are so deeply grateful to all of you, our Montreal community. We really have the best community ever. For the support and love you have all shown us during this indescribable year. Thank you, Natu, and Yair, and Federation CJA for standing alongside our family during this awful and painful year. Your solidarity has been a source of comfort, strength, and hope. יהיה זכרם ברוך ושהקורבן שהקריבו יהווה השראה עבורנו לשאוף לעתיד בהיר יותר. May the memory of my Alexandre and all those precious souls lost that day be a blessing. And may their sacrifice inspire us to strive for a brighter tomorrow. And may all the hostages come home swiftly and safely. גמר חתימה טובה, עם ישראל חי.
And now, a song by Israeli singer Karen Pelez in honor of the first anniversary of October 7th, filmed in Kibbutz Nir Oz, outside my home, features Karen singing with children who were released from Hamas captivity, as well as children whose families were affected by acts of terror. Karen says it is a reminder to continue to see the light, even though and in the name of what was taken.
In the endless field outside my home, the smoke's already cleared. Vines are growing on the bridges that the flames have burned and seared. Sun shines every day, but I'm still waiting for night to come. In the endless field outside my home, you are always there with me to heal our lost and wounded soul. And you promised me that once again the sky will never fall. We'll stroll every night and watch the stars under the great dome. In the endless field outside my home, time has gone by, all the soil has been watered. No more war songs, just melodies dressed up in white. And you're here and you're hugging me on the grass that grows there with me slowly after the great storm. In the endless field outside my home. From the field outside my home, you'll see the same skyline, same coast. Only I know I'm still searching for the childhood that I lost. Will we ever אותי בשדה מאחורי ביתי.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Yair Mano.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Yara Mano, and I am one of the Shinshinim volunteering here in Montreal for the year. I was born and raised on Kibbutz Re'im in Otef Aza. To me, Kibbutz Re'im is the most beautiful place in the world, a place where I always felt safe and free to wander around in the middle of the night or hike in the beautiful nature of the region. Kibbutz Re'im is home, and it will always be my home. But since October 7th, it is not the home that it used to be. I am here today to tell you about my story of that horrific day. This story is just one out of thousands. The Kalaniot in the back of the band of the tent, represents the stories of those who couldn't blossom. The Kalaniot were created along with students in the school I volunteer in. At 6:29 on October 7th, I woke up to loud sounds that I at first thought was rain, but I only learned later that they were gunshots from the Nova Music Festival. My parents, sisters, and I understood, though, that something was not right, and we all went into the safe room. In that moment, the red alert started. Tseva Adom. Tseva Adom. Our fears grew when, just a short while later, my sister Yael began receiving messages from her friends in a nearby kibbutz, telling her there were terrorists inside the kibbutz. We were all in disbelief and thought to ourselves, this cannot be real, it must be a cruel joke. But it wasn't. We began hearing sounds of gunfire. The sounds would travel away slightly, only to come back louder moments later. It is now 8 a.m., and our phones start pinging with messages from our kibbutz WhatsApp group. There was a series of messages from Dvir's wife saying, Dvir was murdered. Daria and Lavi are alone at home. Urgent. We still couldn't believe that this was all real. It must be an exaggeration. He probably just fainted. I knew Dvir and the family well because I regularly babysit Daria and Lavi, his children. This couldn't be true. But we later learned, much to our horror, Dvir was murdered in front of his children. The stream of messages in the kibbutz group didn't stop for a moment. and I couldn't take my eyes off of my phone because of the fear, because of the uncertainty, because of the need to understand what's happening and to understand the dangers and any instructions we might be given, but also to know that everyone is okay, to know that terrorists were not close by. It's now 9:98 a.m., and the WhatsApp messages are coming in, saying the terrorists are setting houses on fire, and they went up in flames. Many couldn't breathe as the smoke and fire began entering their safe room too. They begged for help, asked what to do, what the instructions were. But besides kibbutz members writing to them to wet clothes and cover their faces, no one had a good enough advice or solution. Because no one ever prepares you to a situation where someone is trying to choke and burn you to death. Soon, I learned that my classmate Mor Meir was murdered, an amazing person with the crazy energy and a good heart. I began to cry, hoping again that this was all just a nightmare. In another WhatsApp group, my friends from dance told me that their parents had left the safe room to bring a knife and a frying pan. At first, I thought it was stupid, and then I asked my father to bring also. We didn't want him to leave the safe room, but we knew it would help with the sense of security, so he did it. I remember we laughed at ourselves. It was a very strange feeling to be locked in a room with a knife and a frying pan, like in a movie or something, and with gunfire sounds in the background. While we were scared, we remained optimistic, hopeful that the army would soon come to our safety. After all, this is our strong army, one that protects us from any danger. Now 4 p.m., we still had not eaten or drank anything. I've never felt so hungry in my life. My father ran out to bring us bags of abadi cookies and a bottle of water. The kibbutz WhatsApp group is still non-stop and now was filled with messages from frustrated parents who still hadn't heard from their children since 8 a.m. Two of the children are my friends Liam and Amit. I'd send them messages asking how they were doing, but did not receive any response. I thought maybe they will have poor internet service. But no. My sister received a picture of Liam, his hands tied behind his back with a helpless look on his face. He had been kidnapped into Gaza. I was in shock. Suddenly, the Instagram was full of so many familiar faces. My family's best friends from Kibbutz Be'eri among them. The Instagram stories said, missing, missing, missing. It was surreal, and it's still surreal. We worried about their safety, but held on to hope, telling each other everything would be okay. We kept thinking how we would react if terrorists would come into our safe room. And then they knocked on our safe room window. The noise was so close, closer than any time before. A noise that paralyzed us and left us completely silent. Nobody said a word. My sisters and I hugged each other tightly, and we bent down so that if terrorists were to shoot through the window, they would have a better chance of missing us. For some reason we still don't understand, they never shot or attempted to enter our house. As night fell, we allowed ourselves to fall asleep, exhausted by the events of the day. My parents took shifts, staying awake. At 10 a.m. on Sunday morning, October 8th, we were instructed to leave the safe room and pack quickly to be ready for an evacuation at noon. Where to, we did not know. We didn't want to leave the safe room, but we ultimately did. The soldiers arrived to make sure no tourist was hiding inside. We were so glad to see familiar uniforms, good people we knew we could trust. As I threw clothes into the suitcase, I received a WhatsApp message from a friend. A message I did not accept to receive. A message that broke me and changed my life forever. Amit was dead, murdered in his room in Kibbutz Re'im, his favorite place in the world. I cried a broken and a painful cry. Amit Gabay, my dear friend, the most lovable person I've ever known in my life, the most special and happiest person I knew, not even 18 years old. 30 hours after first entering the safe room, we left the house and saw daylight. It was such a strange feeling. The birds were chirping. The kibbutz was quieter than ever. We got into the car and left for Eilat. On our drive out of the kibbutz, we saw entire areas burned to the ground. We sat in the car in total silence, riveted to the window, trying to make sense of what we were seeing and desperate to learn more about what had happened. We would soon learn about more death and people we knew who had been kidnapped into Gaza. And so began a new chapter in all of our lives, one that took places far from home, far from friends, far from everything we had known up until that day. A sad chapter filled with attempts to repress, yet attempts to remember all the same. A chapter of a strong community trying to recover. Those who are no longer with us echo in my head every day, every hour, and every minute. My friend Amit accompanies me everywhere I go, even here tonight in Montreal. As does Yossi, the closest figure to me as a second father, who was murdered in Hamas captivity after many months being held hostage. His body remains in Gaza. His brother Eli is there with him too, alive. Yossi, Eli, and all the remaining hostages remain in our thoughts, and will do so until they finally all return home. Thank you.
Please welcome to the stage Reverend Hassan Daniel Ben Lolo from the Montreal Shira Choir and Bring Them Home Montreal member, Ruben Hassan.
מי שברך אבותינו אברהם, יצחק ויעקב, יוסף, משה ואהרון, דוד ושלמה, הוא יברר וישמור וינצור את נעדרי צבא ההגנה לישראל ושבויה, ואת כל אחינו התנונים בצרה ובשבייה, בעבור שכל הקהל הקדוש הזה מתפלל בעבורם. הקדוש ברוך הוא ימלא רחמים עליהם ויוציאם מחושר וצלמוה, ומסורותיהם ינתק, ומשימותיהם יושיעם, וישביעם מהר עליכם משפחותיכם. יודע לאדוני חסדו ונפלאותיו לבני אדם, ויקוים בהם מקרא שכתוב, ודויי אדוני ישובון, ובאו ציון ברינה, ושמחת עולם על ראשם. ששון ושמחה ישגיעו, ונשאו יגון והנחה, ונאמר אמן. Bring them home now.
אבינו שבשמיים, צור ישראל וגואלו. אבינו שבשמיים, צור ישראל וגואלו. ברך ברך את מדינת ישראל, ראשית צמיחת גאולתנו, הגן עליה בעברת חסדך, ופרוס עליה סוכת שלומך. ושלח אורך ועמיתך לראשיה שריה ותקנם בעצה טובה מלפניך, ותקנם בעצה טובה מלפניך. צור ישראל וגואלו. אבינו חזק את ידי מגיני ארץ קודשנו והנחילם אלוהינו ישועה, ועטרת ניצחון תעטרם, ונתת שלום בארץ ושמחת עולם ליושביה. ואת אחינו כל בית ישראל פקודנה בכל ארצות פזוריהם, ותוליכם מהרה קוממיות לציון עירך, ולירושלים משכן שמך ככתוב בתורת משה עבדך. אם יהיה נידחך בקצה השמיים, משם יקבצך אדוני אלוהיך, ומשם ייקחך. והביאך אדוני אלוהיך אל הארץ אשר ירשו אבותיך וירשתה. ויחד לבבנו לאהבה וליראה את שמך, ולשמור את כל דברי תורתך. הופע באדר גאונוזך על כל יושבי תבל ארצך, ויאמר כל אשר נשמה באפו, אדוני אלוהי ישראל מלך, ומלכותו בכל משלה, אמן סלע. מי שברך אבותינו, אברהם, יצחק ויעקב, הוא יברך את חיילי צבא הגנה לישראל, העומדים על משמר ארצנו וערי אלוהינו מגבול הלבנון ועד מדבר מצרים ומן הים הגדול עד לבוא הערבה, ביבשה, באוויר ובים. ייתן אדוני את אויבינו הקמים עלינו ניגפים לפניהם. הקדוש ברוך הוא ישמור ויציל את חיילינו מכל צרה וצוקה ומכל נגע ומחלה, וישלח ברכה והצלחה בכל מעשה ידיהם, ידבר שונאינו תחתיהם, ויעטרם בכתר ישועה ובעטרת ניצחון, וקוים בהם הכתוב, כי אדוני אלוהיכם ההולך עמכם להילחם לכם עם אויביהם, להושיע אתכם, ונאמר אמן.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage the President and CEO of Federation CJA, Mr. Yair Zlak.
Good evening. I do want to welcome a couple of dignitaries that joined us later on this evening. Brigitte Garceau, MNA for Robert Baldwin, and Anne Gainey, MP for NDG Westmount. Thank you for joining us. I think it's important to take a moment for Hakarat Tov to the law enforcement that has supported our Jewish community throughout this year and have ensured that this event and others have gone over without incident. Thank you very, very much. The evening between Yom HaZikaron and Yom HaAtzmaut has always dawned on me as one of the most difficult for any family of bereaved Israeli soldiers and victims of terror. And yet, as I stand here right now, finding the silver lining of October 7th, a year later, I'm going to try and thread that needle. Captain Eitan Oster, Zichrono Livracha, 22 years old, was a commander in the Egoz Commando Unit. He was the first Israeli soldier killed in combat against Hezbollah since the IDF began its ground operation in southern Lebanon. He was buried at Mount Herzl Cemetery in Jerusalem on Wednesday last week, hours before we ushered in Rosh Hashanah. Before entering Lebanon, he sent him a video to his family in Hebrew, and they released it for publication. In his final message, Eitan quoted G.K. Chesterton, "The true soldier fights not because of the hate for his enemy in front of him, but because the love he has for what is behind him." In those few words, Eitan, Gibor Israel, summed up the spirit of an entire country and indeed of our entire nation. We have a lot to learn from the TikTok generation leading the war against our enemies, whether in Israel or here in the streets of Montreal. Hours ago, our university students led a vigil in front of Ruddick Gates downtown, proudly declaring their commitment to Judaism and Zionism, fighting for what they love, not fighting against the hate that confronts them. The Jewish world has changed significantly this year. Once again, we are redefining history for the world. Israel faces head-on threats to democracy and Western civilization in fighting Iran and its proxies in and around the Middle East. And Jewish communities are fighting the consequence of decades of foreign investment that have created a cesspool of hatred and anti-Semitism guised as anti-Zionism on university campuses, CJEPs, unions, and indeed throughout society. We have shed rivers of tears since October 7th. Our hearts are broken, but we are not defeated. We have shared our anguish and anger together. We may never bounce back to the days of October 6th, but we will bounce forward. As we mark 1 year, let us remember that while we cannot shrink the darkness around us, we can and indeed we must expand the light. That is our role as a Jewish people. That is our mandate at Federation CJA for the Montreal Jewish community. The Jewish people have endured tremendous grief this year, but we've also been privileged to witness and support extraordinary acts of courage, heroism, and humanity. Last month, we saw over 20,000 community members march for Jerusalem. This Rosh Hashanah, synagogues were overflowing. We have seen a renewed thirst for Jewish engagement and Jewish pride. In the words of Menachem Begin, Zichrono Livracha, we are not Jews with trembling knees. We are proud Jews, not retreating from Jewish life, doubling down on our Judaism and Zionism. As Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs, Zichrono Tzadik Livracha, wrote, we defeat death not by living forever, but by living by values that live forever, by doing deeds and creating blessings that will live on after us, and by attaching ourselves in the midst of time to God who lives beyond time. May we live by values, do deeds, and create blessings that will soothe the tears of the entire Jewish nation. May we see the immediate release of our hostages. May we return our children to our borders and pray for shalom al kol am Yisrael. We will never forget the 1,685 lives taken from us since October 7th. Their death will never be in vain. We will honor their sacrifice in Kiddush Hashem by living on, proud, resilient, and united. Am Yisrael Chai, Shana Tova, and Gmar Chatima Tova.
Please welcome to the stage Lisa Rubin to sing a special song for Israel.
Children in the street, soldiers to be, selflessly live their lives for you and me. Though they're far away, they know they're not alone. I'm ready to give all I am for my home. A nation keep alive a nation is my own. Now it's up to me. Oh, for the future history. עוד לא בא היום, חלום הוא רק תקווה, מהרהרת לבני על מה יהי. בדממה דקה עד יאיר היום, לא הוגן, לא צודק, לא אני. כי מציון בת קול קוראת לי, מושכת ורוצה אותי. מאבק על לשרוד, לשמור ומה קיימת, הוא שלי, אחריותי. רק לעתיד, לעתידי. With broken wings she roams the land, book of songs in hand, every song another life. She